Hey everybody, this is Keith Wood for AE Tuts Plus, and what we're going to be talking about today is this particular effect right here. Having an actor walk through a wall. Now, before we get started, I want to kind of go over what we're going to be working with here. The effect itself requires a little bit of setup in advance, and when you shoot for an effect like this, you want to plan for the effect itself. So when I shot this, I shot it specifically with the intent that I was going to have my actor in front of a green screen, which is what he's in front of here, and we're going to need to track in this footage back here so that it moves with the rest of the scene. We're going to have to key the actor out, and over here we're going to actually deal with an area where he overlaps the edge of the green screen into the actual scene itself. This tutorial is kind of an intermediate advanced type of thing, so I'll give you the software we're going to be using is going to be After Effects CS5. You can use earlier versions, but the RotoBrush is a particular tool we're using here to actually bypass having to use complex masking. And we're going to be using Primat Keyer 4.1. If you want to go to their website and check it out, they have the newest version they have out is actually 5.0, and you can download the trial and you can follow along. The other software we're going to be using is Trapcode Shine, which is also available from Red Giant Software. They have a free trial as well, and Mocha Import for Mocha for CS5 or CS4. I downloaded mine from mamaworld.com, but you can also get it from aescripts.com, Mocha Import. Just Google it and you can find it. Now, when I first got ready to do this effect, I went ahead and off to the internet. I went looking for tutorials that might point me in the right direction, but most of what I found were either people walking from left to right across the screen through a wall, which, neat as it looks, is not the effect that I was going for. It wasn't as impressive as I was aiming for. The other things I saw were people moving away from or towards the camera using really complicated mask maneuvers, and it didn't really look the way I wanted it to. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start by grabbing our footage, which is phase in here, and we're working at 16 bits per channel, drag it down here and create a new comp. I'm going to show you what the footage looks like here as we scrub through. You'll see what I'm talking about, how he crosses over the edge of the green screen here. And we do have a fair chunk of motion blur. I shot this with my HV20, and you don't actually have good control of the shutter speed through the camera itself. There's a lot of convoluted ways to get about it, but I didn't actually bother with any of that. So we're going to take care of a big chunk of this as we go. So without any further ado, let's get started. Once we got our footage down here in a new comp, we want to go ahead and find us a good starting point and scrub through and find us a good ending point. And you want to have a pretty good amount of handles at the beginning and end here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag these back in, right click, and trim comp to work area. This gives us about 132 frames. One thing you want to keep in mind when you shoot this effect is have your actor move forward like they're moving through an object. I didn't actually direct my actor to do this. He actually fumbled his knife and looked down, and I decided that was actually a really good applicable point where he looks like he's starting to step through the wall. So, alright, we've got our footage set up here. We're going to actually go ahead and I'm going to drag this out of here for the time being, because I had my folder set up for when I did a run through of my process to make sure I could actually get it all right. So we're going to go ahead and drag that outside of this this folder and drag it over here for the moment. And drag it out of here. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and rename this to main comp, and we're going to duplicate it. Make 2 copies. So Control D to duplicate, and name the second one keyed comp. Now, a big chunk of what drives this effect is going to be the footage we key here, but we're not going to start with the key. The first thing we're going to do is build our plates. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to grab my plates and I'm going to drag it down and create a new footage specifically for this. Now, what we want to do is we want to duplicate, make 2 copies of this footage. So Control D to duplicate it, and we shut off the bottom one for the moment. And what we want to do is we want to find a good clean frame once I'm off camera here, where we don't have any motion blur and everything's clear. And we're going to go ahead and right click, go to time, freeze frame. Now this allows us to lock this off, and I'm going to go ahead and take this composition and set it to about 2000 pixels wide, because we're going to be moving this footage over and connecting it with another piece of footage so that we can fill out this background here. So once we have that, we're going to go ahead and go down to our second plate and shut this one off, turn this one back on, and we're going to scrub through for another spot in the footage where the camera pan is over toward the right, which is going to be about right here, and make sure we have no motion blur, everything's pretty clean. We're going to go ahead and right click and go to time and freeze frame. Now we're going to go ahead and slide this footage over this way, and we're going to turn this footage back on. Now what we want to do is we're going to create a mask right here and feather off the edge on the right hand side of this top footage. So hit M, or go ahead, excuse me, hit Q to grab your rectangle tool, drag down, and just select the edge of it. Go ahead and change the mode to subtract and hit F to bring it feathering, and we're going to go ahead and feather this out. Now what we want to do is drop the opacity, so hit T to bring up the opacity, and drop the opacity to about 70% so we can see through it. And we're going to try and line up our second layer with this first layer, and we're going to go ahead and drag this down a little bit, and we're going to find a good spot here where the knots are close together. Here it looks like I'm going to go ahead and take this footage and hit R to bring up rotation. We're going to rotate the footage just a little bit so we can get it into place, and hit your V key to bring up the move tool again, and we're going to slide it down and try and line it up as best we can. The footage looks to be just a little bit smaller now that we've got this tilt going on, so I'm going to go ahead and hit S to bring up the scale and put it at about 102%. Now this gives us a pretty good overlay here. Now we're going to go ahead and pull back the feathering on this mask again, so hit F to bring the feather. We'll pull the feathering back a little bit so that we blend these together just a little bit better. Now everything seems to be a little too tilted. I'm going to go ahead and give it about 1.5 and move it down just a smidge. And there we go, I think we got it. And we're going to go ahead and take both of these and move them over closer to center frame, about right here. And take this first plate, hit T, bring up the opacity, bring it back up to 100%. So we've got our plate put together now, so we're going to go ahead and take this and name it plate, or background plate, BG plate. Now we go back to our main comp here, and we drag our BG plate and drop it underneath. Now what we need to do now is take this footage here that we've got of our two actors, and we're going to need to export it because we need to track it. We're going to track it in Mocha. So go to composition, add to render queue, and I'm going to export it as a PNG sequence. So all you do is when the render window pops up for the output module, drop down, pick PNG sequence, click OK, and pick a location for it. So I'm actually going to go up here, and we're going to go into our track footage. I'm going to go ahead and clear out what's in here already, and we're going to overwrite the footage I've got here. So now I'll just make a new folder. Okay, new folder. Call it new track. Open it up, and we're going to go ahead and leave it with, we're going to go ahead and change our footage title to track footage, and click save. And I'm going to go ahead and render this out, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, our footage is rendered, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to Mocha, and we're going to click Start, and go up to File, New Project. Now it brings up the import clip. We're going to choose, and we're going to double click our new track folder. We go in here, and we're going to click on the first frame of footage here, and click Open. And we want to make sure that we have our full range, and we have the right frame rate, which is 23.976. And HTV 1.33 is our pixel aspect ratio. Everything looks good, so we're going to go ahead and click OK, and it's going to bring in the footage. Now our footage here, because we're using planar tracking, we want to use the largest available tracking area. So we're going to move to the last frame, grab the X-Spline tool, and we're going to go ahead and select the area we want to track. I'm going to get as little of his hand in here as I can so that we don't have to worry about adjusting the track for it. And we go ahead and right click to close the spline. And down here at the bottom on the right hand side we have this little track icon, and we have all these little arrows next to it. We have track to previous frame and we have track backwards. We're going to go ahead and track backwards, and I will get back with you guys as soon as it's finished. Alrighty, our track is done, and we're going to give it a quick scrub, and we'll notice that the track is holding together really well. So we're going to go back to the first frame and go up here to where it says align surface and go ahead and click that. And we're going to go down here to where it says export tracking data, and we're going to go ahead and click on that, and instead of copying to clipboard, because we're using Mocha import, we're going to make sure it's set to After Effects transform data, click on save, and we're going to go ahead and go to our new track, and we're going to save this as tracking data, and go ahead and save that. And I'm going to go ahead and save my project and exit out of here and back into After Effects. We go to our main comp, and we have our plate in position. We're going to go ahead and go to Window, Mocha Import, and load tracking data from text file. I'm going to click that, and we're going to go into the new track, and we're going to scroll down here to our text tracking data, click OK. Now it asks us right here, where in the comp do we want the footage start? We want it to start at the beginning, click OK, and in this drop down menu for step 2 we want to choose TF for transform, move, selected layers, or new null. Make sure you have your background plate selected and click apply, and it creates a new null. And if you look, it's actually called Mocha move null, and it's already got the background plate parented to it. Now there are a few things that we don't need here that it's already tossing in, which is going to be the rotation and the scale. So we're going to go ahead and drop down to our transform information. We're going to go ahead and ditch those. No scale, no rotation. So position is the main thing we're concerned with, and the reason why we don't need the rotation or the scale is because when I actually shot the footage, I left the camera in its original position and just slid it back and forth. Now I'm not going to worry about adjusting where everything else fits in right now. We're going to move on to our next step. Now what we need to add in now is a new solid, so we're going to go to layer, new, solid. It doesn't matter what color it is, just make sure it's made comp size, and we're going to call this obscure layer, and we're going to move this above the footage. Now what we're going to do is we're going to generate a ramp on this. This saves us having to keyframe where our edge of the green screen is at. We're actually going to use this to follow where our feathered edge is going to be. So we're going to go to generate ramp, black and white is fine, and we're going to go ahead and set our phase in movie. Go ahead and click toggle switches modes, and we're going to set it to Luma inverted matte, and we're going to take our black and white points and we're going to move them over here on the left hand side of the frame, right around the edge of the green screen. I'm going to go ahead and bump these two numbers up to 540, which is the halfway mark of the frame, and we can take and we can drag these back and forth until we lose the edge of the green screen. Now that we have that, we're going to take our obscure layer and parent it to the Mocha move null, so that now it will actually move along with the camera move and feather out that edge for us. Now what we need to do is adjust our background plate into position. So we go back to the first frame, and we're going to go ahead and bring up position. We're going to keyframe it at the first frame, and we're going to move it into place. Which looks to be about right here. And we've got a little bit of a problem with our obscure layer, so it's no big deal. We can actually tighten this up just a little bit by bringing in that other edge, and we can pull that other edge out further so that we have more of our feather on this side. And it looks like it's pretty close to in place. We're going to go ahead and move our position down just a little bit, maybe one or two. There we go. Alright, everything's in place. Now we're going to go to the start of the camera move,